So we're about 2 weeks into the NBA season, and the Golden State Warriors at the time of this recording are 7-1 to start the season. After last night's big win against the Boston Celtics, Brian Windhorst from ESPN says he believes that the Warriors will make a big trading move to contend for a championship this season. Many Warrior fans are campaigning that the team shouldn't make a trade and should go all in with the current roster. However, I'm here to tell you that the Warriors absolutely need to make a trade to become a legit contender, and the player that they have to move is Jonathan Kuminga. The Warriors made Kuminga completely untouchable in trade talks for the last 2 seasons in hopes of him being able to reach an all-star level potential for the team. They were hoping he can develop into that secondary scoring option for the Warriors, but that vision now seems to be far-fetched because he lacks the ability to score and create shots at a high level. Throughout my years of watching basketball, I've noticed that the best shot creators in the league can do 2 of these 3 things at a high level: accelerating, changing directions, and decelerating. Jonathan Kuminga does not possess 2 of these 3 abilities to become a reliable shot creator for the Warriors. Reggie Miller said it the best: he has a scoring mentality, but he's an unpolished scorer. Due to his athleticism, Kuminga loves to get downhill to score. However, he's very one-dimensional. He can only accelerate at one pace. He can't change his pace or disguise it similar to guys like Ja Morant or Anthony Edwards. There are so many times where he'll grab a rebound, sprint in transition at full speed, his defender is guarding him full speed, or they're alerted that he's going to drive, and he becomes easy to defend because he's playing at the same pace. He also can't change directions coming downhill like some of the best athletes in the NBA. Against Houston, Kuminga only drove left, and it seems like that's the only thing that he can do. He can't shift and change directions to his right side once he commits to his left, for an example. So now if you combine those 2 issues together, where he doesn't know how to change his pace and accelerate accordingly, he can't change directions when he turns the corner, what will usually happen is that he'll force a lot of bad shots at the rim by going through his defender to draw a foul. And at times he'll get rewarded with foul calls, and at times he doesn't. But when he doesn't, he'll complain to the referees about not getting a foul call, he'll jog back on defense, and now his team is in a 4-on-5 situation on the other end. And not to mention, he lacks intelligence and the ability to decelerate and shoot over the top. It's no secret that Jonathan Kuminga is not a great shooter by any means. So because of that, he doesn't possess the ability to space create when he has the ball out in the perimeter when teams overplay his drives. But there are moments where they'll throw the ball to Kuminga in the post to exploit a mismatch off of a switch, and he doesn't even know that he needs to be physical and bump his defender to create separation for a push shot or a turnaround jumper. This is why he's either getting stripped in his pickup before he even gets the shot off, or the shot just becomes heavily contested because he didn't create space by bumping his defender. In addition, he also doesn't have great touch around the basket, which makes his scoring ability become even worse. And you'll see this in the difference in scoring ability between Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. Wiggins knows how to be physical to bump his defender so he can shoot his right-handed push shot with a soft touch going middle when he operates off of the left block. This is one where he missed, but the idea is there, and these are ones where he's likely not going to miss a lot of them. Wiggins knows how to create space out in the perimeter when guys overplay his drives. These are things that Kuminga just hasn't been able to master just yet. Not to mention, Wiggins isn't even an elite shot creator like that, and yet he looks so much more polished than Kuminga in every way. And it's disappointing because, at times, Kuminga does show certain flashes of potential of being a good 2-point scorer. Like he'll break out that inverted Euro against Brandon Ingram, or there are times where he can shoot a balanced turnaround jumper, and it feels like he can develop into that DeMar DeRozan or Brandon Ingram archetype player. But it's just not consistent enough for us to make a definitive judgment on that. Because he plays in this Warriors system where there's a ton of motion, Kuminga's been able to become a good roll threat, cutter, shot blocker, and vertical spacer. This makes me think that his potential just might be a lesser version of an Aaron Gordon type, where he's essentially just a connector or a glue guy, and every now and then you can kick the ball out to him, and he might or might not hit a shot, or he might get you a bucket here and there. And for the Warrior fans who are saying that it's early in his career, give it some time, he's only 22 years old, I've heard this excuse over and over and over again, and it boils my blood every single time. First of all, he's in year 4. This isn't like it's his rookie or sophomore year. But I'll let it slide because Steve Kerr did not give him a massive role in his first 2 years. Second of all, you don't mention age in sports as a reference if there isn't any legitimate potential to look forward to. For an example, we mentioned how Wemby is only 20 because of the ridiculous potential that he has displayed as a young player coming into this league. That's the idea. Imagine how good he'll truly be 2, 3, or 4 years from now if he's doing this right now. With Jonathan Kuminga, there isn't any all-star level potential to look out for us to be sitting here like he's only 22. No, you only say that when there's credible talent and potential being showcased. And as of right now, Kuminga doesn't have what it takes to be the kind of player that people think he's going to be. He's not going to be Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant, Paolo Banchero, Tyrese Maxey, Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren. He hasn't displayed that superstar potential for the Warriors. Matter of fact, he still has a long way to go. The third thing that I want to mention that people might not know is that Kuminga spent literally this entire offseason becoming a better offensive player for the Golden State Warriors. He's trained with Ant Wells, who has claimed that they were in the gym for 60 days straight, working on many different offensive skills. He's worked with Dash, who has trained many NBA stars like PG, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Green, Cat, etc. And for him to still look relatively the same player offensively as he did when he first came into the league is disappointing. This is important for the Warriors because they lack a true shot creator. Wiggins has looked good for certain stints, but it's uncertain whether or not he can take on that kind of role consistently this season. And for the Warrior fans who are saying we don't need to make a trade because we're winning games and we have a lot of depth, y'all can't just base things off of big sample results. You have to look between the lines here. Against Houston, we played amazing basketball in the first half with our 5-out motion concepts, transition offense, defensive effort, and rebounding. In the second half, Houston increased their defensive tenacity with ball pressure, high pickup points, switching ball screens to blow up our actions, and continuously crashing the glass. Now that things are settling down in the half court, we can't get out in transition, and everyone is being pressured constantly, it turns into a game of throwing the ball to your best creators and seeing if they can beat us with or without Steph Curry on the floor. That is the same type of environment as a playoff setting where teams are going to focus on attention to detail, amping up the intensity on both ends, preventing you from getting out in transition so easily, and preventing you from scoring on off-ball actions as well. Teams are going to recognize what you do best and what you don't do best through film and analytics. This is where you need reliable offensive creators to win basketball stretches where the game doesn't get out of control like how it did in Houston. The same thing happened when we faced the Clippers. We ran into a team that had defensive traits like perimeter speed, screen navigation, versatility, and athletic presence, and we struggled to score for certain stretches. To be a championship contending team, we can't consistently go through scoring droughts. When we can't hit shots, we need an elite 2-point scorer who can settle the game down and steady the ship before things go haywire. And it seems like Warrior fans are just waiting for that to happen before realizing that we're going to need to make a trade, and at that point it'll be too late. I mean, did y'all forget we went through that last season? Just because things seem one way in the regular season doesn't mean it'll go that way in the postseason. But going back to Kuminga, I think we can all effectively agree that he's the most athletic player on the team, right? Usually when someone is a good athlete, they're typically good defenders, but for some reason with Jonathan Kuminga, he's just not a great defender at all, specifically POA defense. He has the athletic gifts to become a great POA defender, but he still has so many deficiencies, it's not even funny. First of all, he just struggles to contain the ball at a high level. Whether he's matched up with a role player or a superstar, he tends to give up straight line drives to the basket. Guys are just able to drive right past him, which shouldn't happen given the athlete that he is, and it puts the Warriors defense in jeopardy. If you watched Wiggins and Kuminga guard Tatum when the Warriors played the Celtics, there's a huge difference in perimeter speed, physicality, defensive skill, and intelligence on that end. Wiggins made it tough for Tatum to get to the spots, whereas it wasn't as much of a struggle when Kuminga was on him. Second of all, Kuminga just can't navigate screens on and off the ball at an average level, let alone a good or great level. He tends to get big around on ball screens. Instead of getting skinny and sliding through the screen, he usually just gets nailed and he gets stuck on the screener. He also doesn't know when to go over and when to go under. He'll take bad routes around ball screens when most of the time he doesn't need to. He also doesn't know that he needs to stay attached to his matchup when it's clear that his man is going to come off of an off-ball screen or a handoff, which puts him in a compromised position. He can't fight through screens if he's already steps behind. And third of all, he just lacks defensive effort when it comes to making the correct defensive rotations. Like if you're on the weak side and somebody steps up as the low man, you need to help the helper and sink and fill. Or if somebody steps up to sink and fill, you need to cover the corner skip on the weak side. Or if you're a part of a blitz where you're the screen defender or the ball handler's defender, as soon as the pass is made, you have to move on air and recover back into the play because your team is dealing with a 4-on-3 situation on the backside. But at times, Either Kuminga doesn't understand that, or he doesn't make the effort to make these rotations happen. And again, considering his athletic ability, he should be able to fly around the perimeter to close out, play passing lanes, and give multiple efforts. But I'm not even lying, a 36 soon to be 37-year-old Stephen Curry is actually competing on the defensive end much better than a fresh 22-year-old Jonathan Kuminga, which, if that doesn't tell you what you need to know, then I don't know what will. And lastly, Kuminga just doesn't fit with this Warriors system on both ends of the floor. Over the years, he has gotten better. He's played under Steve Kerr for multiple years now, so naturally he's going to be able to fit in some way. But again, his game just doesn't fall in line with what the Warriors are trying to achieve. The Warriors want to make a lot of threes. He's likely not going to be able to contribute to that. The Warriors want constant ball/player movement. And again, he has gotten better in that aspect, but at times he can hold the ball and stop the possession from building any kind of flow to create advantages. Instead of making that 0.5 second mentality, sometimes he'll just hold the ball and either try to create, or he passes the ball when it's too late and the defense has already reset. The Warriors want tenacity on the perimeter defensively, but he struggles to contain the ball, he struggles to give consistent defensive effort, and he takes 3 business days to get around a ball screen. The Warriors want to rebound on both ends of the floor to generate more shots and get out in transition, but Kuminga hardly rebounds. The Warriors want good playmakers to make passing reads to shooters or cutters. He's not a great passer to take on that kind of role. The Warriors want good screening to free up shooters for potential slips to the basket, and Kuminga doesn't stand out as a great screener. So now if you combine his lack of polishness with his shot creating ability and his defensive deficiencies, it becomes harder and harder for him to thrive with this Warriors team. And another thing that I want to mention that I don't think people are talking about enough, and it's the fact that I personally believe that he and Steve Kerr are likely not on great terms. They've been able to work with each other on a professional level, but they likely aren't close whatsoever. In 2023, Kuminga didn't play much in the postseason, and he made it very vocal to the media that he wasn't pleased to not be a part of the rotation. He was talking about some like, "You can't stop the sun from shining," and this was a direct shot at Steve Kerr. This is where, if you guys remember, Steph had to come in and give a speech to the entire team about setting your feelings aside and being professional. And then in 2024, Kuminga didn't play in the last quarter and a half. In the game where the Warriors lost to the Nuggets on a Jokic game winner, he again was upset. But instead of speaking to your coach about your frustration, he deliberately leaks his feelings to Shams about how he feels about his head coach, stating that he has lost all hope in Steve Kerr and believes he'll never allow him to reach his potential. I don't know about y'all, but for you to not even have the consideration to speak to your coach and have a man-to-man conversation about how you feel about your PT, but instead you're so aggravated to the point that you feel like you would rather speak to the press about it first, not even caring that you're being completely unprofessional, should probably tell you the idea of the relationship that Steve Kerr and Jonathan Kuminga have. And to add to this, apparently, Anthony Slater or some other Warriors reporter stated that Steve Kerr didn't even tell Jonathan Kuminga to his face that he was coming off the bench. Instead, he decided to just send a text. From what I'm seeing, I don't think this dynamic of Kuminga with the Warriors and Steve Kerr is going to work out in the long run at all. Jordan Poole clearly had hostile energy towards Draymond for what happened, and what did the Warriors do? They got him up out of there. Klay Thompson publicly stated that he did not enjoy his last 2 seasons with the Warriors. So then what happened? Both sides decided to part ways. And again, I'm not saying that Kuminga and Kerr hate each other, but they're likely not on the same page. And this isn't to say that Kuminga doesn't do great things for the Warriors at all. At times, he can come up big in certain stretches. It's just in the overall big picture, he's just not what the Warriors need, and it's likely not where Jonathan Kuminga wants to be. I think he needs to play in an environment where there's no pressure for him to do certain things, and he can take bigger chances on the court to really find his identity as a basketball player, which is exactly why the Warriors need to move on and ship Kuminga out this season. They've tried to invest in him the last 3 seasons, and it hurt our ability to contend for another championship. By February at the latest, if the Warriors do not get rid of Jonathan Kuminga, this team will likely not reach its potential, and Steph will unfortunately come up short of trying to win his 5th ring.